Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Travel, and the show that's travel is a talk and the talk is travel. I'm your host, Diane Tuttle. Let's Talk Travel is sponsored in part by Travel Connections and Social Club, the club where you can join. You can get in touch with us, call the hotline at 781-2630, or you can simply email us at tcsc@itravelconsultants.com. We always have a great show for you today with discussing various topics from all over the world, and today's show is going to be on China. And I've got some wonderful guests, Christine Guess and Dawn Belts. Welcome to the show. Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
And today we're going to talk on China, and Dawn was so good about bringing a map, so we wanted to show you a little bit on the map of actually where they were in China. They went to Shanghai and Beijing, and Dawn's going to do a little pointer test there. If you want to go ahead and point to the two towns that you guys, or cities that you went to. That one is...
This is Shanghai down here. I'm actually using a chopstick here to demonstrate this. We flew into Shanghai, and then from there we flew into Beijing. We concentrated most of our time for about the 9 days that we were on this trip between Beijing and Shanghai.
Yeah, and I'll have to also reiterate that these two went on to China trip, but they went on two different trips. Kristen went 10 days before Dawn did, and she actually had snow. And Dawn went later, and he didn't have any snow. So that was kind of interesting, because when we talk a little bit about the Great Wall and stuff, we'll go into a little bit more of the snow in that respect. But the first part of the series here is going to be on the food, and that's always kind of interesting. How did you think the food was going to be, Kristen?
Before I arrived, I expected the food to be very diverse because China is so large and there's so many different geographic regions. And also, two of my best friends growing up were Chinese American, and I've eaten at their house several times. And so I thought I'd be prepared for the reality of Chinese cuisine, but it was actually a lot different.
Ours here, right?
It's totally different.
How did you think about how it was going to be over there?
I'm not sure I had any expectations. I know we get different stories about what kind of meat they might be eating, but for the most part, I enjoyed it. I think they tried to Americanize it.
Oh, okay.
In a lot of the places that we went to, but like Kristen's going to probably mention here, did consist of rice and a lot of different meats, fish.
Did you actually know what you were eating, or did you have to guess at some of them?
Most of the meats, I really couldn't tell you if they were pork, chicken, or beef. They kind of all tasted similar with the spices.
Kind of different parts of the animal or something?
There was one, I did eat chicken once, and it was a chicken foot. So,
oh, okay. Yeah. They told you that or something? Or?
You just couldn't tell because it was fried, and the batter covers up, the shape of what it actually is.
So I guess, like in some of your notes that you said they were kind of like on a Lazy Susan, and you kind of shared. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, each meal we had at a table that sat about 10 people, and they served at least 8 to 10 dishes, and each diner would individually take with their chopsticks their portion, and you rotate the Lazy Susan around. So it was fun. It was different than eating here, at a table. With just one plate.
You had the same thing then.
Yeah.
Was there some food that you were kind of questioning of what it might be, or did they have octopus over there, or lots of fish, or?
I don't rightly remember the octopus. They did have fish. A lot of the fish that I experienced, it was very bony. They'd have very thin bones in it, so I actually stayed away from that.
So they didn't have shrimp or crab or any?
Oh, they did. They had
okay.
They had the shrimp and the crab. You'd get different choices of meats.
Oh, okay. And so you went out to one of the, as we were discussing earlier, to one of the markets and things. Tell the audience what you encountered in some of the marketplaces.
Well, I'd have to agree with Dawn that the meals that we were served were Americanized, because when you go through the marketplace of the actual Chinese towns, you see that they eat eels, they eat snails, they eat duck liver, duck tongue.
Oh, that's very interesting.
They're just
but they
big
didn't serve that
buckets.
to you, huh?
They didn't serve us any of that, thankfully, in my opinion. But everything's bought fresh every day in everyday life. They buy everything fresh. That's
every
value.
Day they go to the store, huh?
Yeah, fresh vegetables they buy at their markets.
Oh.
Like people here, they'll go and they'll shop, Costco for food that'll last a month, but freshness is really valued over there.
Oh. In some of your notes that you submitted to me, there's some kind of a symbolic value to some of the foods or something?
Eggs and tomatoes were served in almost every meal, and eggs in China represent fertility, and then like noodles represent longevity of life, and I read that they're just as important as birthday cake in America, to serve noodles at a birthday party.
Noodles at a birthday party. Instead of serving cake like we
Yeah.
do, they serve noodles.
They serve noodles.
How very interesting.
Yeah. And duck, for example, served at weddings. It's a unit, a symbol of unity, and they really value the food, symbolic value of food.
Did you get the hang of the chopsticks, or did you have that here? Because, I've tried for years trying to learn how to use chopsticks. And you actually brought some chopsticks back from China that people use them like forks over there. Did you guys actually use? I have to always ask for a fork. I have to let the listening audience know that I was actually in China myself for a short time back in 1985. So we're going back a few years. But I still was, impressed with the way the whole country was run and the food too. They served a lot of dim sum. They did on my trip anyhow.
Yeah, we did have dim sum, and as you're saying about chopsticks, they're really easy to use because all the food there is already bite-sized. You don't have to cut anything. It's cooked, bite-sized already, so it's easy. But in China, the real Chinese people don't use wooden chopsticks. They have, they're not disposable. They just have those for us.
Oh yeah.
They always use chopsticks, so.
Yeah. Are they throwaway chopsticks or?
They had them for us, but
okay.
The restaurants actually have. They don't have those here.
You were mentioning earlier that the Chinese people didn't eat in the restaurants. Is that true? It was just Americans, Don?
Pretty much, again, where we were taken, it was all Americans. It was interesting, like our guides that were with us, they never would sit down with us. They always went to a back room someplace. So I'm not sure if that was just part of their protocol.
I've been on a lot of tours, and that is the guides are not supposed to eat with the tour people, really. On a lot of the trips that I've been on for, different parts of Europe and stuff, they tend to go into the back of the restaurant or not eat with us, except for my trip to Ireland. The guy did eat with us there, but most of the other ones, sure. So what was all the other thoughts about the food and to tell the listening audience a little bit more about the food and aspects? And
one of the things that I could share is before I went, I worked with a lot of Filipina ladies, and they had shared with me that by the time I got back, I was going to be ready to change my diet. And they were absolutely right. By the time I got done with my 9 days there, I was ready for a Big Mac.
Yeah, I was just going to say that too, because I couldn't wait for, and I saw a McDonald's in Hong Kong when I was there, and it was actually quite different though than the McDonald's here, that I found that it didn't quite taste the same.
Yeah, I did go to McDonald's in Shanghai in the last day because I was craving some diversity. And it was packed, 2-story McDonald's, no seats available. The Chinese people just loved it.
Oh, do they?
So,
did you see any other restaurants or stuff that we have over here? Kentucky Fried Chicken or something?
KFC, it was huge over there.
Oh.
Starbucks.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
Starbucks.
Starbucks.
Wow.
A lot of American businesses are moving in. Avon, Starbucks, McDonald's, KFC.
Well, that's very interesting. So what are some other thoughts that about the food that you had over there and some of the symbolic traditions and some of the traditional food that they have there? Wrap up the segment here.
The meals just seem to be really enjoyed over, people sit down all together. It's a family
Do
experience.
they take a long time? Does it like take an hour for a 7-course meal or something?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely longer than mealtime here because each dish comes out, you take a taste, and then they'll bring another dish, and then they'll bring another dish, and it's just a lot more social thing.
A lot of food over there.
A lot of food. A lot of food. Nobody ever.
Do they have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the traditional times?
I think our tour guide said the Chinese people eat breakfast earlier because they get to work earlier. They eat breakfast about 6, and lunch around 11 to 12, and dinner about 5 to 6. So a little bit earlier than here, I guess.
So you both went on to China, but you went on 2 different tours, and I understand there was like a couple hundred people on each of the tours with you said there's as many as 5 and 6 buses pulling up to all the different places that you visited and the like. So. Wow, that's quite a feat to feed that many people at one time.